what was like kind of your inspiration for the piece to begin with?
To tell you the truth, I don't really know exactly where the inspiration came from originally, but I had just been introduced to watercolor pencils when I had first started making it, and I had used watercolor paints many times before in the past, but with no luck at all. So when this had been introduced to me, I was excited because it was a watercolor medium that I could actually use, that I had some control of.
Could you tell us what kind of your piece is about and like what like the cartoon characters kind of are? Like I just saw like a whole bunch of them. They're like kind of everywhere. Are they related like in any way?
Absolutely not.
Gotcha.
Each one was pretty much made on a different day. A few of them I kind of lumped together, but none of them have any correlation whatsoever. Some of them are people I know, some of them are people I know of, some of them just came right out of my head.
I noticed your piece, and it's really interesting, like the kind of textures that you have in it, and I'm just like wondering what kind of media did you use, and like tell us a little bit about that.
I used mostly acrylics, but I did add a few oil with it. I went over most of the paint with resin to make it like look like a different pattern.
Oh yeah.
I also used asphalt over like the dark spaces.
Whoa, that's really cool. So the piece seems pretty personal. Could you like kind of tell us like what inspired you and where that kind of came from for you?
I actually took a picture of myself with a filter that made my eyes really big, and I thought it'd be pretty cool as a painting. So it's basically just a self-portrait. There's not a lot of meaning behind it, but that's what I like to do. I like to have people like thinking about it, like what's going on.
Day one, I walk in, a white vibrance surrounds me. A feeling of non-acceptance, a feeling I need repentance for the sins I have not done but am shown guilty. A week goes by, a month, then two, still pressure to conform. The stripes of mine aren't as beautiful as yours. I'm judged by mine. We aren't the same. I'm predetermined, stereotyped. From the get-go, I'm not up to the hype. I'm profiled. Automatically, you're above me. You're profiled. Because of the system, no matter what I do, I'm low-filed. A year goes by, I'm in science class. You say I'm not black. You say I'm not who I think I am. You say I'm just an Oreo, some white on the inside. What constitutes my blackness? The fact that I hold a 9? Do I have to be on the block, put in dope at 9? Family goes into our bank account and the balance says 9. So you can't see me as a hard worker who gets 100,000 on the bottom line? I turn back and say, yeah, that's fine, because for you to be accepted, I must be funny when it comes time. And for you, I'm the one who lets you say the N-word at the end of a punchline. I brush off the prejudice and the ignorance of your comments because I know it's not your fault, but where you're placed in your environments. It's where you came from, that all-white home, able to avoid all color in your all-white dome. You're easily swayed by the media on your all-white phone telling you to stay home, and now I'm alone. 2 years move past, the question again presents itself, what constitutes my blackness? Am I white now since I speak right? Am I bright now that I choose not to fight? Do I become lighter as my intelligence shows? Because of course a black dude couldn't be educated. Of course a black dude with dreads mind can't be stimulated. A black dude with dreads in a hood is a death statement. We're a trend now with the music and the dance, but one day would I become outdated? It's amazing. How can you say I'm white because I'm the way I act? So you constitute being black with all the negative, strip down to who I am, take away what being black is. Black is a culture, black is beautiful. Not to say that you aren't, just to say that I am. I'm sorry that I need a boost to show myself as equal. When I say that Black Lives Matter, I'm protesting the immorality in the streets. They're shooting kids down that look just like me. All lives matter, that's truer than true. But why does this offend that this has nothing to do with you? I want to push black up to teach equality, to show you what I'm not and tell you what I ought to be. Don't tell me I'm racist because I lift up my culture. A day in my shoes, feel the intensity of the vultures. Year 3 still going, new pressures may roll in, nothing I can't handle. I have friends of all cultures too. You feel comfortable, and so do you. But you're still in your own world without a worry in sight. You don't have to think of every step you take, every move you make. For you, it's boys will be boys. For me, it's my people on my back. One wrong move and all I've done right falls through the cracks. I turn from a studious nice boy to the grime on the ground. Oh, better than a homeless man begging for food, banging his can to make a sound. Day one I walked in, a white vibrance surrounded me. That feeling hasn't left, just changed, metamorphosis. I know I'll never be fully accepted, but that's just the way it is. You still smile at me. We still call each other by name. We're real great friends, but at the end of the day, I'm black, and that's something I won't change.
So what was kind of like the process that you went through to make the piece, and like what was the medium that you used for your drawing?
I use colored pencil, pastels, and watercolor pencils, and I was kind of just testing everything out, not really sure how it was going to go. I intended on it being all watercolor, but as it went on, I realized that I wanted to just make it look like I blended everything instead of watercolor, and it took me probably about 4 hours for about 2 weeks on the weekends to finish that.
Is there a specific person in the picture that you know, or is it just like of a photo online, or?
I found a picture. I was going through old pictures from my old house when I was younger, and I wanted to find a picture that kind of captured my attention, and it was actually me when I was younger, and I just liked the way it looked and how I wasn't looking directly at the camera. I was just kind of caught in the moment.
So no, I kind of sense that there was this 20s theme in your piece, which is really great. What kind of was the process with that whole thing, and like how did you come about with the idea?
It actually all started when one of my friends saw another 1920s drawing I made a few years ago, and she actually asked me to draw one for her.
Gotcha.
So like that sort of started it all, and then a lot of the inspiration came from just like old photos from that time era, sort of lot of Google images.
And how long did it take you to actually do the piece?
Let's see, I started in November and I ended about February.
Wow.
I would have gotten done a lot sooner, but a lot of other stuff was going on, so yeah. Postpone a little bit.
Thurgood Plarthy awoke in a funk. Dragging his 547-pound body to the edge of the bed this morning was a more daunting chore than usual. He had two things on his mind this morning, and they were both breakfast. His eyes were still sealed shut with excessive early morning crust as he groped for his pair of slippers under his bed. He slid off with an unusual gurgle gasp from his throat and a minor burst of flatulence. His eyes were wide open now as he lay sprawled on the scratchy beige shag carpet. Without getting up, Plarthy stretched his arm under his bed, located the soft fluff of the slippers, and pulled them slowly towards himself. Once, twice, thrice, he attempted to sit up, making it on the third try with some assistance from his particle board nightstand. Plarthy cursed himself under his breath as he struggled to get the 3 sizes too small slippers over his cold, sweaty feet. He managed to squeeze one on, unaware of the smooth black shape which had scampered up his lavender pajama pant leg. Grunting with the frustration of stretching his other slipper over his foot, he rocked side to side, flopping over onto his left. A disturbingly dry crunch was followed by an excruciating bolt of pain through Thurgood's thigh. The resulting shrill scream that pierced through the tiny room's stale air caused the little frog-shaped nightlight in the corner to flicker wildly. As Plarthy frantically kicked his pajama pants off, whimpering uncontrollably, a loud knock came at the door. He ignored it when he came face to face with a sizable scorpion, which was lashed onto his left cheek. In its jet black carapace, he could see his own reflection, mouth agape with long strands of snot dangling from his wide red nose. Another louder knock jolted Thurgood into action. He grabbed the small claw hammer that he keeps in his nightstand for defense and bellowed as he wailed on the 8-legged invader, killing it, but also creating ugly purple and yellow bruises on himself. Instead of knocking a third time, the door blasted open, bouncing off of the doorstep with a twang. A man nearly twice Thurgood's size barged in, demanding to know why his 30-year-old son was sitting in the middle of his room with his pants around his ankles, screaming and hitting himself with a hammer. Thurgood, who would forever remain a teenager, just responded with a "Dad." If you stopped hitting yourself, you probably wouldn't be screaming, reasoned the older Plarthy. Now put your pants on, it's almost time for second breakfast. Thurgood opened the drawer in his nightstand, which was already ajar, and tossed the mangled arachnid corpse inside. He then simultaneously propped himself to his feet with his bed while pulling his flowy pants up around his waist. Meanwhile, his weird shut-in neighbor had captured the whole thing on video. A little security camera located on his roof angled perfectly into Thurgood Plarthy's tiny beige room. This was going on YouTube. Plarthy would never know peace again. When Ronald first met Thurgood, he was sure they would get along just fine. In his head, Ronald figured he could live rent-free under Thurgood's bed, surviving off of insects and crumbs. What Ronald didn't realize is that Thurgood had no idea he even existed. That would explain why they had lived in relative harmony for about 3 days. Ronald camped out under a massive heap of dirty laundry at the foot of Thurgood's bed for that time, eating whatever crumbs he could forage from his old cargo shorts pockets. By the time Thurgood had moved the stinking mound of extra large thrash metal t-shirts and long white socks, Ronald was already shuffling about under the bed, looking for a new place to stay. He found the perfect place. Fast asleep, Ronald had no idea what was to come. If you could experience what he experienced in his final moments, you would understand why no amount of preparation could have ever been enough. First, Ron was dragged from the safe shadows of his den, then he was repeatedly stomped on by his only friend. He did the only thing a scorpion could do. He ran to the nearest warm, shady area. He ran up Thurgood's pant leg. He figured he was safe. Surely Thurgood could never take his pants off. He had worn these pants non-stop the whole time they knew each other. Well, Thurgood rolled onto poor little Ron, crushing his brittle stinger. And if Ron could have screamed, he would have been shrieking the unholiest of curses at Thurgood, that treacherous brute. In a delirium, Ronald was only half aware that Thurgood held in his flabby, sweaty hands a large steel device. He watched, dazed,
as it quickly got closer and closer in.
Few things are eerier than standing in silence with several hundred people. Crowds are supposed to make noise. At the prayer vigil for the Lansing woman recently abducted, raped, and left for dead, the crowd was mute. Given the context, it's understandable. The group gathered at Trinity Lutheran Church to pray for a woman who came home from work to find a man robbing her house. He attacked her with a hammer, raped her repeatedly, strangled her until she lost consciousness, and dumped her on US 20. Before leaving, he set her on fire. When she woke up, she was still burning. This man was Carlius Clay, a parolee who went to Oakland United Reformed Church. The church gave him physical and spiritual assistance as he transitioned from prison. Soon after, the Village of Lansing issued a statement on its website. He should have never been paroled here in the first place, the spokesman said, and he should not have come to our community. Let's be honest, the Village is saying what everyone wants to say. I want ex-felons to adjust, but I want them to do it anywhere but here. But they have to go somewhere, and to say anywhere but here feels like unacknowledged selfishness. Not that I don't feel the same way. I don't like Carlius Clay. My aunt was abducted, raped, and murdered while she was studying in New Orleans. Carlius Clay reminds me a lot of the man serving a life sentence for my aunt's death. I understand the anger behind the Village's sentiment. But such unchecked anger does nothing and changes nothing. Evil just isn't out there. Everyone can be evil. We can't avoid another Carlius Clay by shutting the doors to Lansing. We'd be locking ourselves in with another one. But what worries me just as much is the opposite response, knee-jerk forgiveness. Those who are eager to forgive Carlius Clay have no right to do so. Nobody except for the victim, her family, and God himself has that right. People should forgive, but that forgiveness is for their own enemies, not other people's. Forgiving Carlius Clay is not our business, it's hers. And if she does forgive him, something that requires remarkable strength, he still deserves punishment for his crimes. Often forgiveness is equated with innocence. They're not the same. Carlius Clay is a rapist. He took a match to a woman's body and he let her burn. He will be tried and he will be found guilty, and I hope he never walks out of jail. If I sound angry, that's because I am. What happened to this woman was evil, but we are still called to love. There's no love in hating Carlius Clay and every parolee that steps foot in Lansing. But there is also no love in ignoring this woman's suffering with cheap forgiveness. I don't pretend to know how to straddle this line between mercy and justice. That question is bigger than me, bigger than the Illiana community. Maybe that explains the crowd's silence.
Look, Peter, the sky. What a lovely, lovely day. Aren't the clouds beautiful? You know what I do when it seems as if I couldn't stand being cooped up? One more minute, I think myself out. I think myself on a walk in the park where I used to go with Pim, where the jonquils and the crocus and the violets grow down the slopes. You know the most wonderful part about thinking yourself out? You can have it any way you like. You can have the roses and the violets and the chrysanthemums all blooming at the same time. It's funny. I used to take it all for granted. Now I've gone crazy about everything to do with nature, haven't you? I wish you had a religion, Peter. Oh, I don't mean you have to be Orthodox or believe in heaven and hell and purgatory and things. I just mean some religion. To believe in something. When I think of all that's out there, the trees, the flowers, the seagulls, when I think of the dearness of you, Peter, and the goodness of people we know, risking their lives for us every day, when I think of these good things, I'm not afraid anymore. I find myself and God, and there have always been people that have had to suffer. Sometimes one race, sometimes another, and yet, oh, I know it's terrible trying to have faith when people are doing such horrible things, but you know what I think? I think the world may be going through a phase, the way I was with Mother. It'll pass. Maybe not for hundreds of years, but I still believe, in spite of everything, that people really are good at heart. Oh, Peter, if only you look at it as part of a great pattern, of just a little minute in the life that... Look at us, going at each other like a couple of stupid grown-ups. Look at the sky now. Isn't it lovely?